Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Senator Patricia Van Pelt, thank you for hosting us in your district today here in North Lawndale. Stephanie Hart and Liz Abuna, thank you for being here with us, and congratulations on the expansion of both of your businesses. I'm so glad that your DCEO grants are helping you grow your businesses, leading to more commerce and more jobs in neighborhoods that deserve a boost. It's exactly the kind of investment that I want to facilitate all across the state of Illinois. To Leader Kimberly Lightford, Representative Omar Williams, Representative Teresa Ma, Representative Camille Lilly, Representative Jennifer Gong-Gershowitz, and Representative LaShawn Ford. Did I miss anybody? I want to make sure I got everybody. Thank you very much to all of you for joining us, and for all of your advocacy for a more inclusive and equitable Illinois, especially at this moment as we look to restore and renew our state economy in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. I'm very proud of how Illinoisans have responded to this public health crisis, because the people of this state have chosen to follow the data and the advice of the doctors. We've seen our state's positivity rates and our transmission rates plummet. Unlike other states that have rushed to reopen and have seen spikes, Illinois has gradually reopened and is among the best in the nation as a result. But while supporting our collective health and keeping our hospitals from becoming overrun is our most important battle, we must address the economic pain that COVID-19 has visited upon us. Every state in the United States has suffered devastating job losses and business closures. And just like the virus went after our most vulnerable people, it also hit the most vulnerable parts of our economy. It's our small businesses, our working families, our communities of color that have paid the highest price. Even as some other states right now are moving backward in their reopening plans, Illinois is moving forward. As all regions of Illinois seem to be meeting the metrics to move to phase 4 of our Restore Illinois plan, we're also advancing our relief and recovery programs. Months ago, we began protecting millions of Illinoisans from financial ruin by banning residential evictions, placing a moratorium on utility shutoffs and vehicle repossessions, and launching new small business support programs. This last Monday, I announced that 1 million more people will now be eligible for our low-income home energy assistance program and our community services block grant program. In total, because of these programs, 3.5 million low-income Illinoisans can access emergency assistance for rent, for food, temporary shelter, utility bills, and other essential services. To access these programs, I want to remind people listening that you can go online to helpillinoisfamilies.com. And today, we take another step forward in delivering Illinoisans much-needed support in an effort to get through this crisis and rebound with a stronger, more inclusive economy on the other side of this pandemic. With assistance from the Federal CARES Act and in partnership with the General Assembly, including from the Black Caucus, Latino Caucus, and Asian Caucus, my administration has put together a support package of over $900 million to lift up small businesses, working families, and Black and brown communities who have been hit the hardest by COVID-19's financial impacts, which in neighborhoods like North Lawndale was compounded by recent property damage and unrest. The economic fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted everyone in Illinois, and it has had a disproportionately large impact on those households with limited resources who are least able to weather a financial hardship. For that reason, every one of these programs operates with equity requirements, ensuring that disproportionately impacted areas receive their fair share of support. And I want to thank the leadership of the Black and Latino caucuses for working with me to develop this plan. As we continue our recovery, their input along with other members of the General Assembly, will ensure that we are investing properly to achieve our common goal of a more just and equitable state. As the financial hardships of this virus become more acute, our administration went to work to help those hardest hit by this virus. Today, I have several important new programs to announce that will provide relief to families and businesses to help them weather the storm and to get back on their feet. For many people, weathering the crisis begins with keeping a roof over their families' heads. Even before the pandemic, over 70% of extremely low-income families in Illinois were already dedicating more than half of their income to rent. And now, nearly 1 in 3 Illinois adults have either missed last month's rent or mortgage payment or are worried about their ability to pay next month's rent or mortgage on time. That's 1 in 3 of our neighbors, 1 in 3 of our community members, 1 in 3 of our friends, struggling just to maintain housing for themselves and their families. That's an unacceptable reality for too many. Housing is vital, and people are struggling. To begin to address this need, we are launching 2 separate $150 million programs through the Illinois Housing Development Authority that will help thousands of renters and homeowners who've suffered financial loss because of COVID-19. These programs will officially launch in August, and in the meantime, I will be extending our residential eviction ban through July 31st to give people a smooth transition into these new assistance programs. First, the Emergency Rental Assistance Program will provide a $5,000 grant to tenants who, because of COVID-19, cannot afford to pay their rent. 30,000 renters will receive this support through the end of this year. And second, the Emergency Mortgage Assistance Program will provide approximately 10,000 Illinois homeowners unable to pay their mortgage with a grant of up to $15,000 to mitigate housing instability. On top of supporting renters and homeowners, we need to address the financial hardships of our biggest job creators, and those are our small businesses. The federal PPP program seems to have overlooked too many small businesses, and it was important to me and to the legislature to ensure entrepreneurs and businesses get the help they need. Last week, I announced substantial new funding for child care providers, especially in disproportionately impacted areas across the state, so we can make it easier for parents to get back to work. Today, I'm launching the Business Interruption Grants Program, known as the BIG program, to help our smallest businesses all across the state to get back on their feet as we begin to recover from this pandemic. This program will offer at least $270 million in grants to small businesses who've suffered losses due to the COVID pandemic. I'm happy to say that small businesses will be able to submit their applications for the first wave of these grants beginning on Monday. Businesses immediately eligible for this first wave of funding include those that have been heavily restricted or completely shut down during the pandemic. This includes $20 million for businesses in disproportionately impacted areas, $20 million specifically for bars and restaurants unable to offer outdoor service, $10 million for barbershops and salons, and $10 million for gyms and fitness centers. An emphasis will also be placed on those businesses that have experienced recent property damage, exacerbating the economic impacts of COVID. BIG grants will continue to grow over time, but that's only the beginning. Even separate from COVID relief, we're dedicating $25 million of our Rebuild Illinois capital funds to support Illinois businesses that have sustained property damage as a result of the destructive events related to civil unrest on or after May 25th, 2020. This program will prioritize covering the costs of rebuilding small businesses women and minority-owned businesses, underinsured or uninsured businesses, businesses that have a high community impact, such as grocery stores, and businesses in communities that have experienced a history of disinvestment. And the program includes provisions to ensure minority and women-owned contractors are the first in line to do their repair work. Rebuilding our small business economy and offering housing stability to our working families are critical actions as we address our need for relief and recovery. But there's so much more that we need to do to support the depth and breadth of our people's lives. To that end, I'm directing nearly $40 million in existing human services funding to communities hard hit by the COVID-19 crisis and the civil unrest. I'm expanding our Emergency Senior Services Fund to provide home-delivered meals, groceries, medicine, medical equipment, and other supplies to more of our senior citizens, especially for those in communities that have lost those services in recent days and weeks. We've provided new funding for Feeding Illinois food banks so that they can provide meals and groceries to more hungry families, including a special partnership with the Greater Chicago Food Depository to distribute nutritious groceries to the west side and south side of Chicago. Working with Catholic Charities and the Catholic Charities Network, we're investing in Black and brown farmers to bring additional fresh produce to affected areas all across the state this summer. We're sending a state stimulus check of $500 to families who participate in the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, TANF program, or about 44,000 children and 23,000 adults. That's in addition to their existing SNAP benefits, which are newly available online in Illinois, simplifying their ability to access the food that they need. We're providing small grants to community-based organizations seeking to hold restorative justice discussions and events in response to the racial injustice and unrest throughout our country. Approximately 12,000 individuals will be able to participate. And because some people heal in more personal ways, we will also be increasing funding for crisis support and building more capacity for community-based mental health support throughout the state, especially in underserved areas. And finally, we're building upon existing state contracts with employment training and summer youth organizations to provide stipends to thousands of unemployed adults and young people seeking part-time summer employment opportunities. We're in a moment that requires a historic effort to mitigate this virus's devastating effects on the health and livelihoods of the residents of this state. We must do so in a way that prioritizes those who were hurting long before we ever heard of COVID-19. To be there for people who are in need, people who are falling through the cracks, people who may never have expected themselves to need a helping hand from anyone else, but now they do. I'm deeply proud to lead a state government so committed to being that force for the people that we serve. And I'm equally proud to partner with so many great leaders who have spent years dedicated to building that Illinois. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to one of those great leaders, a friend who has dedicated herself to the fight for justice and equity, Majority Leader Kimberly Lightford.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor Pritzker. Isn't it such a gorgeous day here on the west side of Chicago? And as I exited off the ramp at Independence, the same ramp I always exited off because my family lived in the 3600 block of Granshaw, just 4 blocks from here. That's where I was raised for summers, weekends, holidays. And I have to tell you this because as I came down Roosevelt Road, the very businesses as a little girl we would sneak over to just to get a popsicle or a snow cone or cookies was not there. It's a block full of vacant lots. And that's by design. That's because of race, excessive use of police, and of course, COVID. So I'd like to start out by just talking about the Brown Sugar Bakery. Brown Sugar Bakery is just one example of the many Black-owned businesses across our state that we can support to encourage economic growth in our communities. It is a fact that minority business owners are more likely to employ people of color and give opportunities to those in need of a second chance. Black communities are the hardest hit by COVID-19, another symptom of the disease that is racism in our country. Working families who have yet to receive a proper payday have struggled. They've struggled to maintain during this time. Our small business, built in our local communities by the people who care about them the most, were forced to shut down and were damaged by individuals who totally exploited our pain for personal gain. They need a government that will work for them without hesitation. And when we left Springfield after passing a balanced budget, this is the work that we fought for Black and Latino communities who deserve nothing less than reassurance that we are going to make them whole. And then we are going to make them grow. The programs we are announcing today rebuild our small business, provide housing assistance, jobs, food, and more, with specific attention to underserved communities. That is why I'm so proud to stand next to our governor, who has led us through a pandemic, not with his ego, but through science and the opinion of experts. Furthermore, he refuses to shy away, in my opinion, from conversations that may and will be uncomfortable. He understands that this is a moment, that this is not a moment, that this is a movement. And I'm excited to move forward with our governor and my colleagues in both the House and Senate, Black and Latino and Asian caucuses, to build a bold agenda that addresses inequities that has held our communities back for far too long. I'd like to thank Deputy Majority Leader Jahan Gordon Booth of Peoria. She spent a lot of hours, as I, working with the governor's team, and we appreciate the governor lending his administration to listen to our voices, to share with what we know our communities need. Jahan's voice was very instrumental as it relates to Black communities outside of Cook County and Collier counties who's often left out, and especially when they don't have Black representation. So again, thank you, Representative. Thank you to the governor's team, and especially Pritzker. We would do had this pandemic hit us. But I'm sure grateful that we have Governor Pritzker at our helm, and I look forward to continuously working with him to bring the most needed to our communities. Thank you. I have the distinct pleasure and honor to introduce to you all the very CEO of the Brown Sugar Bakery. Please come forward. Dangerously delicious.
Thank you and good afternoon. Wow, this is a historic moment in historic times that aren't necessarily easy. I am so honored to have been chosen as a minority company to have the opportunity to further my goals, which have always been to employ Black and brown people in my neighborhood. This grant will give me the opportunity to acquire a company that is a Chicago company since 1936 that was going out of business. We're going to be able to save 23 jobs with this, and I'm going to be able to make life a little bit sweeter. We'll be making candy and not just cake. I also would really like to express to the state of Illinois my gratitude for the team and the people that helped us get through this process. It started off with an announcement, and that was a big announcement. This was a big grant that took a lot of work, and it also took communication from the folks at the state of Illinois getting out and helping minority businesses to be able to get through the process of this grant. I'm thankful. I'd like to say one other thing. I'm glad that the cohorts that also got this, we all understand this is going to be something you're going to want to do again, because we're going to succeed. We're going to show with this grant money, all of us, that we can make a difference in Illinois. Thank you. I'd like to bring back my favorite governor, Governor Pritzker. Thank you.
Reporters who couldn't be here. Many people are relaxing now that we're in phase 3, heading into phase 4. Are you worried about a surge in cases? And what is the state doing to prepare for a possible surge in the fall?
I do worry that people will relax the mitigations that we've asked them to follow, the masking, the hand washing, the keeping physically distant. I do worry about that all the time, and those are things that have been proven to have a very positive impact on our state, on our positivity rate going down as low as it is. And so I'm concerned with that. But having said that, I'm very proud of the people of Illinois and how they've reacted over the course of the last 3 months, doing exactly the right thing. And it's led to Illinois becoming one of the best states in the nation in terms of the rates of cases and hospitalizations, ICU beds, and deaths going down. And as for the fall, I think a lot about making sure we've learned a lot. From the very beginning of this, when we knew almost nothing in the very first few days, we've learned a lot about what we need to be prepared for. And so we're keeping warm all those things that we were concerned about in the early days to make sure that if in the fall there's an increase and a challenge to our healthcare system, that we'll be able to manage it.
In light of the Attorney General's positive diagnosis, would you advise all elected officials who appeared at that June 6th event with you to get tested? Should Cook County Board President Tony Pritzker go get tested even though she had no contact with him?
Well, look, we've made testing much more available, and it's widely available for free in many locations to anyone. And so I would encourage people to go online. You can find on our coronavirus.illinois.gov website locations that you could visit. I certainly think that anybody that thinks they may have been exposed for any period of time and is concerned to go get a test.
Can you update us on any police reform talks you've had with Black Caucus? How soon might we see a concise agenda?
Well, there's a lot of conversation going on. Some of the people here have been part of that. Many of the ideas that you've read about in the newspapers are things that we're considering and again, talking through how we could accomplish those things. We want to make sure that we get not just a concise agenda, actually a complete agenda is what we really want. And so we're going to work hard to get that put together. I know that the General Assembly wants to have some hearings on these and make sure that we move expeditiously toward getting things done.
With the uptick in COVID cases in other states, are you considering remaining at the current stage longer than planned or even dropping back to a previous stage?
Well, I'm not considering moving back to a previous stage. As you know, in our Restore Illinois plan, we talked a lot about what would be the things that would take us backward. And we don't expect those things, but we're obviously all watching the metrics going forward. But phase 4 is laid out for everybody to look at. We'll be evaluating adjustments that may need to be made along the way, because during phase 4 we want to make sure that businesses are continuing to reopen. Every industry, we've talked to the industry associations, to the major players in industries, even small businesses in each industry, to make sure that we've included their ideas. But of course we haven't spoken with everyone, and along the way we're going to find, as we have in stages 2 or 3, that there are adjustments that need to be made. So that'll be worked on over the next number of months, but clearly we are reopening the economy by a significant measure, and that's only about 9 days away from today.
You recently signed the elections bill. What else are you doing to ensure people remain safe with ballot boxes?
Well, let me start with I would encourage everybody to apply for a mail-in ballot. That's probably the safest thing that you can do. It's secure. The U.S. mail is a great way to get your ballot in, and we've made it much easier this time for people who voted in 2018, 2019, or 2020 elections. They'll receive automatically a ballot application. And for those who didn't vote in any of those elections and maybe new voters, it's easy to apply. You can go online to begin the process. And so I want to encourage everybody to do that. It's the safest thing to do. There will also be early voting available, which will help us spread out for people who can't vote by mail for one reason or another, spread out the ability for people to go to places that aren't going to be overcrowded and give them the ability to vote. And then finally, of course, we're asking the boards of elections to prepare now to make sure that they've got the proper PPE. Will certainly be helpful to them as they request it. PPE, hand sanitizer, everything else that may be needed, both for election judges as well as for people who are entering the voting booth.
Anyone else have any questions?
I do. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for taking my questions.
Of course.
You tested yesterday because you were with Kwame Raoul on June 6th. Did that test come back yet?
It did.
Did
Yeah. It came back negative. Yes. Yeah. I would not be here.
Then I have a question. We had Philip Kirpin on today. He's
Sorry.
Philip Kirpin. He testified before Congress about nursing home deaths and that 7 states, and he pointed out Illinois, have sent infectious patients back into nursing homes. Do you have any total on the number of Illinoisans who were sent back to nursing homes and living centers or assisted nursing homes that were COVID positive?
I don't right here have that number. For what I can tell you is that those patients who were sent to hospitals who were COVID positive and had symptoms and needed hospitalizations were kept at the hospital until they recovered. And so as they were returning to wherever it is that they came from, they were aware, and the staff was aware at the location, that they should be kept separate from other people in the... Again, each nursing home has a slightly different measure depending upon whether multiple floors or wings on one floor. But yes, the idea is that they should not be put in with people who might be susceptible to COVID-19, at least initially. As you know, you don't remain COVID positive after you've recovered for very long at all, in fact. And so they're trying to take a measure of what the science says and then act upon that at the nursing home.
This will be the last question. Good. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.